Today we'll be looking at a 9th generation Honda Civic Si. Don't forget to check the video description. I'll have links to everything that I'm using, and if you want to go to different sections of the tune-up, you can click on the links in there as well. All right, now it's time to jack the vehicle up, and we're going to get the vehicle pretty high because we need to do a lot of work underneath it. So we're going to use a Daytona 3-ton low-profile long-reach jack. This thing is great, gets under low cars, and raises pretty high. So here's the lever to pop the hood. Make sure your emergency brake is on and your manual transmission is in A gear. Right above the Honda symbol in the front, you'll find a latch to open the hood. Make sure to secure it with the bar. And in front of the engine and between the front, if you look down and you use a nice light, you'll see an arrow. And it's not at the edge of the arrow, but you see the gap, and then there's a metal piece or metal bar. That's where we'll be jacking the vehicle up in the front. So let's get on the ground so I can show you, but I like to use the Magic Creeper. It's a slidey sort of pad. It makes it easy to move around on the ground when you haven't put the vehicle up on jack stands yet. And so here is the jacking point underneath the front of the car. I'll back out just so you can get some perspective here. And we zoom in. You see how it kind of has like a hump and it has some holes in it. And there's me pointing at it with my Braun mechanic light. That's where we're going to jack the car up in the front. And so we're just going to slide the Daytona in. And you kind of have to eyeball it. It's never straightforward on positioning with jacks. But you just sort of eyeball it and try to match it up so it's underneath the jacking point. And the great thing about this jack is it has foot pedals. And if you're strong enough, you can just sort of push down on it and you can raise it up so it's in the perfect position for jacking up your car. I really like that about this Daytona jack. There's tons of other brands out there that do the same thing. So you're going to put your jack stands behind the wheels, and those are the notches or the jacking points. And put both of them on either side and make sure to chalk your wheels. So you've chalked your wheels, emergency brake is on, and the manual transmission car is in a gear. You can use your foot to try to get the vehicle up as far as you can with the pedal, but then you're going to have to yank on the bar at some point. You see how I've angled my US jack underneath those notches, the jacking points, to be sort of above the valley of the jack. And you see the back is already really low, so we're just going to get the front of the car on the jack stand. No notches, just on the jack stands. And we're going to lower it nice and slow. Whenever we do this, we always check the jacks visually, make sure that they're in the valleys, and we shake. We shake the car, make sure that it's stationary, it doesn't move. It needs to sit nicely. Jack there, line it up. You can use the foot pedal on your jack. And then again, put your jack stands in the proper location. And then we jack the vehicle up. Ideally, you have the garage door open if you're working in the garage there. And slide your jack stand in. Again, we're sort of angling it to be right underneath those notches into the valley of the US jacks. And then you lower it. And again, whenever we do this, we always shake the vehicle, okay? It may make some noise as it's settling, but definitely do not get under a vehicle until you have secured it properly. Now this is a Daystar jack riser, I guess you'd call it. Some people just use hockey pucks, but this thing is nice because it actually sits pretty snug on this jack. It's the larger of the two sizes, depending on what jack you buy. And it's not going to fall off, and it has a nice little groove to not damage the vehicle. And now that I can use this Daystar, I can put it under the tow hook, which lines up perfectly. And it gives me an additional 5 inches on a jack that already gives me something like 22 inches of height. And so as you can see, we're going to get it up to 3 notches first, and we do the front, we do the back, until we get up to 6 notches all around. And again, I'm just showing you the jacking point on the back and where you put the Daystar to give you the maximum height. I wouldn't go above 6 notches on any jack. That's just me. At that point, if you really have to get your car that high, you should consider a different alternative like an actual lift. As you can see, these notches are securely in the valleys, of our US jack stands, which I think are the best jack stands available. If you're going to spend money on jacks, get a high quality one. Make sure the car's level. And of course, shake all corners. Make sure it is stable.
Engine flush, oil change, engine additive. So grab some Liqui Moly engine flush and some cheap OW20 Amazon Basics oil. Get a nice Fram ultra synthetic oil filter, and then some Ceratec boron treatment with some Triax OW20. Get on your Jeepers Creepers. Grab a 17mm. Look for the engine oil and also the oil filter. Grab your oil pan, open up the cap, make sure the secondary cap is open for air pressure. And then you're just going to crank that bolt off. May require some strength. Go ahead and hand loosen it. And once you get a nice stream, you're going to move your hand out of the way and just let it fully drain. It's nice and black. So we're going to look at this old bolt. We're going to keep that crush washer on, and we're going to take the cap off just to get as much oil out of the system as possible. This allows the oil to come out even faster. And while we're up here, might as well clean it. And we're going to probably clean it several times as we add oil. If you take a look inside, you'll see some varnish on the top, but down below, the metal is clean, which is good. Now we're just going to put the old crush washer and that bolt back on and just hand tighten it. It's Tecton oil filter tool. Just hand loosen it. And you're going to get some oil on your hands. That's why gloves are important. And that's just getting all the oil out of the system. Turn that over and leave it on the oil pan. Now once we've cleaned it off with a mechanic towel, we're going to put that old oil filter back on. And just clean up as you go. So the reason we're doing this is we don't want to replace the filter yet, or the crush washer, because we're going to do an engine flush. So grab your Liqui Moly engine flush and your Amazon Basics OW20. Use your owner's manual and read what it says. And it says 4.4 US quarts. Now, as you can see, this is 4 quarts, and you can kind of just estimate from there what 4.4 would be like. I like to use this Alpha box cutter. It's really easy to use, and if you just go ahead and cut halfway through on that aluminum foil, it makes it easier for you to pour the oil. And I'm showing you how to pour it by hand like this, because I think it's a good skill to have if you don't have funnels. So after we've added the oil, we just add the engine flush. Be careful when you add it and try to use as much as you can. I usually will turn it upside down and leave it inside just to get as much out as possible. So then put the oil cap back on and clean up as you go. So the next part's pretty easy. You're just going to put the vehicle in neutral and put your emergency brake on. And you can just check, make sure the stick is in neutral. Start the car and let it run for 10 minutes. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, obviously. You don't want to run a vehicle in an enclosed space. The exhaust will kill you. Go ahead and put a new crush washer on. And we're going to use our Fram ultra synthetic filter. You want the engine to be warm, but not hot when you remove that oil filter. Now we put the new crush washer on and we tighten it. And then we're just going to hand tighten the oil filter. A lot of people will use tools to tighten the oil filter on. That's generally a bad idea. Hand tighten it as much as you can. You don't want to make this impossible to get off. Now we're going to use the Triax OW20. This is a really good oil. I really like everything about this oil. It's very underrated and almost unknown. And we're going to use some Ceratec boron treatment. So as we add the Triax, we're just careful not to spill anything. Again, you can just use a funnel but it's good to know how to pour by cutting the aluminum foil on the top of the oil halfway. It allows you to pour more evenly. Now, the boron treatment just basically protects the engine. What the boron does is it gets into all the microscopic holes and imperfections inside the engine, and it sort of fills them and reduces wear on the engine. And just shake it vigorously, and then just add it. It kind of looks like a cappuccino in terms of color. Then clean the oil cap, tighten it,